What's the strangest punishment your parents ever gave you? Forced to smell dog breath. Because, if we have to deal with the filth from your mouth, then you have to deal with the filth from its mouth. I got this on numerous occasions. It sounds silly at first, but it was anything but at the time. I begged them to give me anything but that. My mom always told me I would end up in prison. As punishment, she would make me sit in timeout under an office desk with a slat-back chair turned upside down on top so the back covered the opening like bars. Come dinner time she fed me hard rolls and water because that's what they serve in prison. I found out years later, while not good food, prison food is much better than hard rolls and water. I was deathly afraid of my basement, and the threat for not adhering to lights out time was being forced to sleep in the basement for the night. Anyway, I forget what I was doing, but I was up to no good one night, probably reading comic books with a flashlight or something. I got sent to sleep in the basement and was pretty much up all night being super scared. It was threatened a lot, but I think it only actually happened once. Dad made me splice together his old 8mm vacation films into a Vine-style highlight reel after I hurt his feelings by refusing to see Chef with him. Not really a strange punishment, but it turned out strangely, I think. When I was probably 5 or 6, something happened, literally can't remember what I did to deserve the punishment, that caused my parents to send me to my room with no lights allowed on and the door closed. I'd never been able to sleep with the door closed and at least a light on in the hall or something till then. This time, I just went to sleep after a while in there with no lights, and that was the last time I needed lights on or the door open when I went to bed. Worked out well from my point of view. Emo. Edit. Wow, this kinda blew up over the weekend. I should say that I grew up during the late 60s when spanking was just a normal thing too. I don't remember ever actually getting spanked though. I dunno. My parents were never cruel to us when we were children. In fact, maybe I was just sent to my room and I just didn't turn on the light myself. Goodness knows I could have. The switch was on the inside of my room. I might have just pouted on my bed till I fell asleep and realized later that I didn't have the light on. It was around 50 years ago or so. I remember that it happened, but I don't remember the specific circumstances. My parents routinely took away my library card when I did something worth punishing. So I memorized it. When they caught on, they refused to go to the library with me for the duration of my punishment. So I started volunteering at the library once a week, so they had to take me. When I was 10, Mom would take my NES games for a week. When I was 13, Mom would take my SNES games for a week. When I was 16, Mom would take my blank floppy disks for a week. I didn't explain the mistake to her until I moved out. I got a bad grade on a math test in elementary school. As my dad dropped me off for the day, I quickly told him he needed to sign something, the test. He was so furious, that even though I was already late for school, he drove the 2 miles back home, spanked me and made me walk to school. I was so late. If I cursed, my mom would make me go into the bathroom and say every curse I knew while looking in the mirror so I could see how ugly I made myself look while cursing. Well, I learned that if I wanted to curse with impunity, all I had to do was say ass and get sent to the bathroom where I could say any curse I could think of, punishment-free, for as long as I wanted. Lol. If I misbehaved in a car, my mom would lower the window and say that a bird would fly in if I'd continue to misbehave. I had to cut open tennis balls with pennies. I'm still not sure what that was about. I was innocent, by the way. For some reason my parents allowed my brother and I to have a very basic bow and arrow which we were allowed to shoot at a cardboard box in the backyard. I, being very young and very dumb, crawled into the box while my brother was firing. Parents were not pleased, and to demonstrate how dangerous what I had done was, they made me lay on the couch for the whole day and pretend I was in a hospital bed. Me and my sister were fighting after I tried to steal some of her chili fries and she stabbed me with a fork. Dad took us out back and tied us up face to face with a rope. Told us when you figure out how to work together you will be able to get out. I would get grounded to the front porch because when I was grounded in my room I would entertain myself with literally anything, even lint from the carpet. So my dad finally had enough and made me sit on the front porch, and I wasn't allowed to talk to anyone except to say that I am grounded and can't talk. My mom was pretty old school, so she wasn't against spanking, which was my usual punishment. Strangest was when I made fun of my sister for wetting the bed, calling her a baby and stuff. My mom wasn't happy because I was making her cry and setting her back. So as a punishment she made me wear a pull-up whenever my sister had to. The buck rag. Still have nightmares. For those who don't know, a buck rag is a rag that's been rubbed all over a sweaty, oily, piss-soaked billy goat in rut, and is often used for goat breeding purposes. In our Alabama town, it became popular for parents to use these to punish children. Goat farmers would even sell the rags for the purpose. Basically, the teenager would be taken outside, and the parents would remove the buck rag from the jar, drape it over the kid's face, and tie a knot in the back. Plenty of room to breathe, no room to avoid the smell. I never saw why everyone feared it so much until my parents gave it to me one night for sneaking around with my boyfriend at night. I puked. A lot. I was not allowed to read unless it was specifically for school. When I was 16 I got caught shoplifting a CD. Thankfully they didn't press charges, but my father confiscated every possession I owned short of the essentials: mattress, blankets, clothes, and ironically, a $200 police scanner, still in the box, he didn't know about. And that's how I got into listening to police scanners. Edit, scanner was shoplifted as well, and I never shoplifted again after getting caught. Mum found out I ditched Mass at school, Catholic school, so she made me go to all 7 Masses offered by my church that weekend. Total time over the weekend spent in church was like 10 hours. I had the gospel and the homily memorized. Withheld dinner and I was only allowed to have bread and butter. My mother is a terrible cook, so I was super okay with this. When I was little, my mom's go-to punishment was to make me kneel on uncooked rice for about 15 minutes. Had to keep a straight back or else the time was increased. She did this because that was how her mom punished her and her brother. She eventually stopped using this punishment after she set some clear boundaries with my very controlling grandmother. She never felt right making me do it. My little sister never had to go through it. I kind of resented that for a while, but eventually was grateful she didn't experience it. I was being a slong as a teen, I think I was 15, and tormenting my little brother by grossing him out. Stuff like burping in his face when he didn't expect it, making him smell my feet, etc., and he really hated it. It made me laugh and I called him a meow for being grossed out so easily. After he came to her crying one day about it, my mom warned me that if I didn't stop, I'd be very sorry. I didn't listen. Worst mistake of my childhood. My mom ran a small, doggy daycare, pet grooming business. The next time I did this to my brother, she put me to work cleaning filthy dog kennels, without gloves, and without a scooper. Worse, she introduced me to what dog anal glands are, which groomers often have to express. Around 3 times a day that week, I had to express dog anal glands. I was not allowed to wear gloves. I puked. Every single time. She planned on the punishment lasting all week, but my bro asked her to let me off the hook after he saw how defeated and broken I looked by Wednesday. My parents said I was playing too much Skyrim when it came out, so they took the router with them to work every day. Good thing you don't need internet to play an offline single-player game. My parents made me join my school's cross-country team because I quit the football team. They also made me join the basketball team. And the debate team. I think they had like 3 ideas for punishment and just did all of them. I was always more the artist type. Didn't much care for throwing the football around or working on cars. I wasn't belittled or anything, my family let me do me. But my stepfather was an evil genius, and when I did something that was considered a minor infraction he'd give me the option of either going to bed early or staying up till my normal bedtime but having to watch sports with him in the living room. And I couldn't just zone out or read. He'd sit there and make chit-chat about the game or try explaining the rules or the player's stats or something else I couldn't have cared less about. I'm 34 and we still laugh about that sometimes. Garbage was brutal. Was grounded so much in my life. I would say 3/5 of my first 16 years were grounded. Neighbor convinced my mom to take me to family counseling. When I sat down with him he asked what my main complaint with them was. I said all of the grounding. So he came up with a list of rules, and if I break them, I get kicked out instead of being kept in, but not kicked out to go hang with my friends. So, they put a tent up in the backyard, and when I broke a rule, I was banished to the tent for a predetermined amount of time. This didn't end up working out because breaking curfew was 12 hours out in the tent. So I would start breaking curfew on purpose, go out to the tent, wait for my parent to go to sleep, and sneak out of the tent and go hang with my friends all night, until the night I came home to a dead patch of grass where the tent had been, and I had to sleep the night on the patio. I woke up to my next-door neighbor staring at me through the fence shaking his head. Safe to say, my parents went back to grounding me after that. Side note, the counselor we went to was later arrested for molesting children. Comma.